Okay, so let me do it through, let me do this one here. Okay. All right, so let me do it through the student view so you can see. Okay, so all of the modules will kind of be set up like this. You'll have some couple reading things that you'll have to read. They're usually right here in Canvas. And then I also have the class resources up here at the top. They'll either be websites or links to chapters of books or whatever it may be. So these are just things for you to read through at your own time. Graphic design trends. And then there's some design challenges, Photoshop, and I think Illustrator. I have to add the Illustrator one there. But Behance does Photoshop challenges where you can kind of get ideas if you're kind of stuck on something, either for this class or another class, and you want to get some prompts or some inspiration for something. Check those out. If you want to just do a general search for graphic design in Google, there'll be millions of websites that'll come up, whether it be terms or samples or whatever it may be. But you know, you can find a lot of stuff out there on the internet. Okay, so that's what the graphic design trends are. And then the other one here is design and artwork resources. So if you are looking for stock photos, photos to use in some of your assignments, I would start with the Adobe website, because you have access to that through your license through the Adobe products. Those are all good to use for class projects. A lot of times you'll find stuff on the internet that belong to somebody else, that they've posted their own artwork. So try not to use those. Start with the Adobe stock photos and then go from there with the other ones that I have listed there. Some of them require an account, but you don't have to purchase anything. You can sign in with your ABC email address or your personal email address, but I never ask you to pay for anything. So if any of those websites ask you to pay for anything, you can move on and go to a different site. Okay. Fonts, we're going to be using fonts quite a bit in this class as well. So I would always start with the Adobe font website. Again, that's part of your license with the Adobe software. And then there's the other websites there that have usually have free fonts. I have a couple mock-up sites, and that's going to be when we're going to be doing the package design. There'll be boxes, cups, mugs, whatever it may be, whatever you're designing. And it'll actually allow you to do a 3D mock-up of your product. And then these are typography websites. And again, typography is important to anything that you're designing. Even if it's just one or two words, how you convey those one or two words with what font you use makes or breaks your design in the long run. Okay. And then design resources, principles of design, elements of design, a design dictionary, and these are all PDFs that you can read right here in Canvas. You don't have to download them if you don't want to, but if you want to keep them for personal reference later, you can download those. And then I have a bunch of different videos here. This GFC Learning series I think is really good. It gives you a couple minute videos, talks about different fundamentals of graphic design. And then there's a text-based version of that. So if you want to read it instead of watching the videos. Then I've included, bless you, I've included some different videos talking about different art styles, understanding line, shape, elements of art, and then beginning design color, and then fundamentals or design principles, some more websites here. Color theory, because color is also important, just as important as typography is in design. You want to be conscious of the colors that you're choosing, because a color here in the United States can mean something completely different in another country. So if you're designing something for international audiences, you want to be careful as to what color you're choosing, not to offend somebody in that country that you're designing for. So this has a lot of different information about color in different cultures, different parts of the world. So it all has a lot of good information here. And as I find more, excuse me, more websites and stuff, I'll add it to this. If you come across websites or resources that you go to on a regular basis, and you want me to add them to the list, go ahead and send them to me, email them to me or whatever, and I'll add them to the list. Okay. All right, back to the modules. Okay, so I have the welcome to the class, introductions. So if you haven't done the introduction yet, it's just a real quick thing, some information about your background, where you grew up, and anything interesting you've done. What is your major? And then tell us something, describe a hobby or activity you enjoy, but without telling us what it is. Okay. And then reply to 2 classmates. You can reply to as many people as you want, but at least to 2 classmates. And that kind of gives you a way to get to know each other through the class, unless you're sitting next to somebody, you don't necessarily interact with each other too much. So this will give you a chance to interact with each other. Okay. All right, so any questions so far? Okay. All right, so then first module, introduction to InDesign. The first 2 pages talk about graphic design terms, elements of design, and principles of design. So go ahead and read this over. And as we're working on different assignments, I'll refer back to this and I'll do little lectures here and there on this. But this is just some information for you to get started, to read over about elements of design and principles of design. And then the next one is the design process. So this is kind of what we're going to go through for each of the projects, the process. So you're going to kind of define what the problem is, what is the assignment, what are you trying to create, gather information. So get information about the project. So if you are designing a logo and the client comes to you, you say, okay, so what's the name of your business, first of all? What's your target audience? And that's usually the demographic of what you're trying to create. And you just kind of gather as much information as you can. That helps you design stuff. I've had customers at the newspaper say, well, I need an ad designed, and all they give me is their logo. And they say, well, come up with something. And I try to get as much information out of them as possible, but a lot of times they're like, well, just come up with something. And if I like it, we'll go with it. If not, so sometimes I've wasted a lot of time because they refuse to give me stuff. Other times they're okay, well, that's good, we'll just go with it. So try to get as much information from your customer, and kind of think of me this semester as your customer. Get as much information from me as possible. If I don't provide it in the assignment, ask questions, is this okay? Is this okay? And that kind of thing. Research, look into other people that may have that same kind of business. Look at inspiration, anything on the internet or any of those websites I've given you. They'll give you some inspiration. I have in the past found stuff that I've liked and tried to copy it, see how they did it, you know, kind of figure out layout and everything, copying it, and that helps you get your creativity going a little bit. It's okay to copy things, but just don't use it as your own, you know, just kind of as a project for yourself to kind of get yourself going. And then concept development, once you've gathered all the information, you start designing, but that starts with the sketching and the brainstorming to get your ideas down. And then you move from there to actually creating it on the computer. A lot of times you'll start and stop 4 or 5 times. I've done that in the past. But then I usually come back to the first thing I did, because to me, that was the quickest thing I did and it came out the best. So you may have to design a couple different things to get the concept down, but that's okay, as long as you're starting with your sketches first. And then you always want to get feedback from the client or just people that, you know, random people. Have them look at something and say, you know, what do you think of this? Or what's your first impression? If they kind of look at it and say, well, I don't understand what this is, then you're going to have to kind of, you know, rework it. So the client may come up with that, have that same idea too, that they're not following what you designed. And then once you've gone through several different revisions, finalize it, and then implementation and production, that usually is whether it's print or digital. If you're sending it out to print, you got to work with the printers or developers or other professionals to make sure that it's going to be translated properly. And then after the design evaluation step is evaluate its effectiveness and impact. So if the desired message was not received by whoever it was submitted to, if it was social media or website or whatever it may be, you'll have to spend some more time going back and doing some revisions. Okay, and then you always just go back to the first step and start working through that again. Okay. So like I said, we're going to be doing most of this with every assignment. You'll define the problem and then go through these steps. Okay, so this just is the InDesign objectives. What kind of things you can do in InDesign. Books, magazines, posters, brochures. Digital magazines, like I said, you can create stuff for use on the iPad or any tablets, interactive online documents. And then those are just the objectives there. Things you're going to be working with in InDesign, the interface, setting up documents, typography and formatting, layout design, graphic and image inclusion, color management, master page and templates, and then interactive documents. And then preparing for print, and then project-based learning. So everything that we're doing in here will build on, each assignment will build on the next or previous assignment. So we'll start off on a simple document, and then towards the end of the semester, you'll have a more complex document that you've created. Okay. So it's a lot of hands-on work. I don't give quizzes or anything in this class. Everything's on the computer. You may have to, like I said, in the discussion boards, you may have to answer a couple of questions about either typography or color or something. But I don't do any quizzes in here, since it's a project-based class. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay.